Hi, this is Angela with Park Rose Permaculture. We're in my backyard watching bumblebees feed on comfrey. I wanted to talk about comfrey today. It is sort of the darling and or mascot of permaculture plants. It is a plant that you should have in your garden if you don't already. So comfrey is an herbaceous perennial. It gets maybe 4 feet tall at maturity. And it is late May now, and it is just finishing its blooming cycle. So you can see here, these were all purple flowers, and now we're down to the end. So it's about time for me to cut it back to the ground, and it will bloom again later in the year. This variety of comfrey, the scientific name is Symphytum officinale. This is a variety called Russian Bocking comfrey. It is sterile. So none of these flowers are going to set seed. I highly encourage you to get a sterile variety or you will have it all over your yard. So in permaculture, we talk about stacking functions. Stacking functions is where you have objects and or plants and or livestock in your garden that serve as many jobs, fill as many roles as possible. So the reason that comfrey is so beloved in permaculture is that it does many, many things in your garden. First and foremost, for me, is that it is an excellent plant for pollinators. Honeybees, bumblebees, native bees, hoverflies, even sometimes hummingbirds will feed off of, not sometimes, a fair amount will feed off of comfrey. The second thing is that comfrey is excellent food for certain kinds of livestock. My ducks love it. It's their favorite food. If they could get access to this plant, they would mow it to the ground. I've heard that also, I think cows and sheep will also eat comfrey. My chickens don't really enjoy it. They'll eat it if they're really hungry. They would much prefer to eat something like kale or Swiss chard than comfrey. The next thing about it is that it is a fantastic way to mine minerals in the soil. So comfrey has a very deep taproot. I've read that it can get up to 12 feet deep. So in that deep taproot, it's able to break up the soil, right? Which is one of the reasons I have it growing in my raspberry patch. So it helps loosen up the dense soil for my raspberries because they don't like standing water, don't like wet feet. And also because in that big taproot funnels, mines minerals up through the soil and accumulates them in the leaves, the flowers, and the stalk of the plant. So at this point in its blooming cycle, it's almost done. It starts to get floppy and fall over. I cut it back. I use these prunings, which are pretty large. You can see my foot. They're pretty long, pretty big stack. And I use these to make Comfrey Tea, which I use as a foliar spray on my fruit trees. And it helps inhibit the growth of fungus, especially rust and or powdery mildew. But it also makes a great mulch plant. So I just, as it is without making a tea out of it, which I'll make a video soon to show you how I make tea, I just chop it up and put it around the base of plants. And as it breaks down, it releases those minerals into the soil for my plants. And because it makes so much biomass on one plant, I have a ton of mulch, which I can use to shade the soil and also build topsoil. So let's get another look at a bumblebee here, happily feeding. So this is Comfrey, Symphytum officinale, ubiquitous, much beloved permaculture plant. Highly encourage you to grow it in your garden. It likes full sun, but will tolerate a little bit of shade. I have probably 20 or 30 plants of it in my yard because I grow it next to all my fruit trees for mulch, and because my bees love it and all the native bees love it. It grows from root cuttings because this variety is sterile. This is, like I said, Russian Bocking comfrey. Sterile does not set seeds. So you must propagate it from root cuttings, but you have to be careful because any tiny piece of root will form a whole new plant. So when you plant it, be sure that's where you really want it in your garden because you'll have it there forever. You think you've dug it out and any little piece of root will start a whole new plant. But that's fine because I can't really get enough of it. And neither can my ducks, and neither can my plants, and neither can the bees in my yard. So again, that's comfrey, fantastic permaculture plant. Many, many uses in the garden. Low maintenance, easy to grow, not fussy. Wonderful, wonderful plant. I encourage you to grow it in your garden.